Good day. My name is Professor Jido Fadibe. I teach international relations at Nasarawa State University and also write a column. How many am I permitted?
What would be nice?
What? Can I collapse them into three? Will you professors? Yeah, because I was very interested in your conversation about strategic autonomy. I wrote actually an article on that, interrogating that. But you also raised other very interesting questions that I thought I should, very, very powerful, that I thought I should interrogate. Okay, let me just collapse that. Strategic autonomy, you did tell me in a write-up you did some time ago, I felt it was an attempt to defend unnamed critics of Tinubu for being close to France. And the strategic autonomy as a concept was developed by the European Council in 2013, but that was addressing autonomy from the US. So one question I asked you, strategic autonomy from whom? Because from the way you wrote in that very beautiful piece, but it seemed to conflate strategic autonomy with concepts like non-alignment, which is not. And also, how do you really think it works out that Tinubu is said, the president Tinubu is said it's believed to be very close to France, which is about his 8th trip to the country, at a time of big sentiment against France in many of the French-speaking countries, including Niger. And if you follow the argument of enemy of my enemy is my friend, or friend of my enemy cannot be trusted, do you think Niger actually will trust us? Second, Niger and the AES countries. And it's still one question. The other one is coming in another barrier. Can I go just 30 seconds? The other question, okay.
Okay, Wazoo was frowning, so thank you. So, Dr. Gawa, yes.
Yeah, His Excellency, I'm actually elated by the event this evening. And there couldn't have been a better topic for this than we are having today.
Please introduce yourself.
My name is Daud Agaruba. I am the Director of the Center for Democracy and Development. In recent time, I've had interactions with some organizations that are of the same equal standing with Nigeria Institute of International Affairs. I'm a student of political science with specialization in international relations, where I had my PhD. I'm concerned about the increasing gulf between the intellectual content of Nigerian foreign policy and the practice, what you find at the policy formulation level. The foreign policy of Nigeria, as you had it under Jaja Wanchuku, Ike Wanchuku, Joe Gaba, Bolaji Akiyemi, there was a huge convergence between what is taught at the level of, or research at the level of Nigeria Institute of International Affairs and what is operated at the level of the foreign ministry. But increasingly, we are seeing a gulf, two divergent poles that are happening. What are we doing about giving content, real intellectual content, to the Nigerian foreign policy under your watch? Thank you.
Thank you. Professor Adeli, yes. We'll go around, please.
Okay. Thank you very much, Waziri, and of course, gratitude to the minister for that excellent rundown on the Nigerian foreign policy framework. My question is rather philosophical.
Please, you need to introduce.
I beg your pardon. I'm Abiodun Adeni. I teach at Base University. So I was saying that my question is slightly philosophical, and I'm wondering, scholars like Gideon Ford, they've always told us that a country's foreign policy is a function of that country's local circumstances, right? Yeah. And of course, in the last 2 years or so, we've gone through lots of turbulence, at the economic sphere, at the political sphere, somewhat, at the level of security, etc., etc. As one of Nigeria's major international relations salesmen, how has it been? How easy has it been for you, to navigate this circle, going across the world and even in the domestic context? Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. Your Excellency, you can answer that set, then we'll take another set.
Okay. Thank you very much. First is the professor from Nasarawa State on the issue of strategic autonomy. Well, in fairness to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, this concept of strategic autonomy was being discussed long before he became president, before he was sworn in, because I chaired the subcommittee on foreign policy within the transition committee. So before he had been sworn in already, this was what we're talking about. We're talking about strategic autonomy. We're talking about 4Ds. So you can see that France was not even in the thinking at the time. So I assure you, it has nothing to do with trying to accommodate some relationship with France or any such thing. And of course, yes, it is linked to the non-aligned movement. But you see, foreign policy is causality thinking, because you're trying to cope with the future and not necessarily the past. It may help you to understand the past, but it's really more about the future. In fact, any policy is causality thinking. So non-aligned movements transpired under a bipolar system during the Cold War. That system doesn't exist anymore. That world is gone. So now we're talking about multipolarity and coping with multipolarity, which is why we're talking about strategic autonomy. And it simply means, so it is autonomy from all countries, from all powers, from all hegemons, so that Nigeria is at liberty to do what it considers to be in its national interest. That's it, pure and simple. So it's not about aligning with one side or the other, or one power or the other, or appeasing one hegemon. Or no, it's not. It's essentially about Nigeria. With regards to, so Dr. Garba talked about the gap between foreign policy implementation and foreign policy, I guess, studies, or foreign policy, the theoretical side of foreign policy in our ivory towers. I'm happy to say that this exists almost everywhere. I urge you to look up a very interesting essay by William Wallace, I think it is. It was Monks and Technocrats, where he was talking about the gap between what goes on in the ivory towers and the actual practice of foreign policy. So the fact that they need to bridge it, but he was critical of, and I'm not doing the same here. I'm not being critical of of the scholars, but he was critical of the scholars in that essay, where he was saying that sometimes you get too carried away in theory to the point that it's no longer applicable to the real world. So you operate in a sort of bubble. But we're doing a lot in trying to bridge that gap, which is why we also try as much as possible to involve, first and foremost, the institutions under the ministry, National Institute of International Affairs, Institute of Peace and Conflict Resolution. We just came back from the UK not long ago, with them where we were in a retreat in Wilton Park. The first retreat we had after I had been appointed minister was with all of these organizations, as well as quite a number of intellectuals, and importantly, the retired diplomats, Arkan, for instance, and several others. And we try as much as possible also to engage these players or these organs in the training of new diplomats as well, so that we can, but it's work in progress, it's not easy. With regards to the local circumstances, yes, it is oft said that foreign policy is derived from domestic policy. We do have challenges. It's a hard sell when you go out trying to attract investments and there's no light. So, it's something that we have to address. It's a reality. We're not shying away from it, but it's it still doesn't mean that we do not have our strengths. We have strengths as well as we have weaknesses, and there are certain things that we do that are still in high demand. There are certain things that are exaggerated, which is why also in the 4Ds we have diaspora. We're looking to leverage the Nigerian diaspora because they're the first point of contact with foreigners, with other countries, and the impressions they have of us. And you can see that some countries are doing it very effectively, where they leverage on their diaspora and influence policy even within other countries. So this is it essentially.